Sandra Burns, Luckman, the daughter who chose a quiet path, born on July 28, 1934 in Illinois. That same year, at just 5 weeks old, she was adopted by George Burns and Gracie Allen through the Cradle, a well-known adoption agency in Evanston, Illinois. The following year, her brother Ronnie would join the family, also adopted through the Cradle. George and Gracie were overjoyed to become parents. They bought their famous colonial mansion in Beverly Hills, specifically for the children. A 1938 article in Motion Picture magazine gave a rare peek into their early family life, describing 3.5-year-old Sandra as fair and rather delicate, often hugging a doll. George recounted how he and Gracie anxiously stayed up all night, watching over 5-week-old Sandra, watching her breathe to make sure she was still living. As she grew up, Sandra was introduced to the family business. On January 1, 1953, she and Ronnie made their debut on their parents' hit TV show, The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show, playing themselves. But while Ronnie would go on to become a regular cast member, Sandra's path was different. It's noted that she declined becoming a regular member of the cast. This decision, made as a young woman, was an early sign of her preference for a life away from the constant glare of the cameras. She did appear in a few other episodes in minor, often uncredited roles as a receptionist, a customer, or even just a voice on the telephone. But it was clear that a life as a performer was not her calling. Sandra's adult life was centered on family and a career dedicated to helping others. She was married 3 times, first to young James Wilhoit, the third in 1953, with whom she had 2 daughters, Lori and Lisa. After their divorce in 1957, she married Rod Amato, a television director who had even directed an episode of her parents' show from 1959 to 1962. Her third and longest marriage was to Stephen A. Luckman, whom she wed in 1964. Stephen was the son of a prominent architect, and his career in real estate was a world away from Hollywood. Together, Sandra and Stephen had 2 more daughters, Gracie Ann Luckman and Brooke Luckman. The naming of her third daughter, Gracie Ann, was a touching tribute to her mother, Gracie Allen, who had passed away in August 1964, just a month before her granddaughter's birth. For her own career, Sandra chose a path of service. She became a school counselor in the San Diego school system, where she lived for most of her adult life. This was a deliberate move away from Hollywood into a profession focused on guidance and making a direct impact on young people's lives. It allowed her to build an identity based on her own merits and contributions, separate from the Burns and Allen legacy. Sandra Burns Luckman passed away on January 19, 2018, in San Diego, at the age of 83. She had outlived her brother, Ronnie, and her famous parents, having successfully cultivated a life of quiet dignity and personal fulfillment, largely on her own terms. Number 1. Ronnie Burns, the son who stepped into the spotlight, then away. Born on July 9, 1935, was adopted by George and Gracie when he was just 11 weeks old. George Burns wrote in his memoir that Gracie specifically chose Ronnie because he was the most sickly baby up for adoption, feeling he needed their help. This act of compassion set the stage for a warm and loving upbringing. Like Sandra, Ronnie made his TV debut playing himself on the George Burns and Gracie Allen Show. But unlike his sister, Ronnie became a regular cast member in 1955. His character was a drama student at USC, who was often bemused by his parents' comedic antics. His good looks and presence were credited with helping the show attract younger viewers. This role, where he played a version of himself alongside his real-life parents, famously blurred the lines between reality and sitcom fiction. After Gracie Allen retired due to her health, Ronnie continued to appear with his father on The George Burns Show, 1958 to 1959. His acting career, though brief, was quite active. He appeared in the 1957 film Bernardine with Pat Boone. He starred in the NBC sitcom Happy, 1960 to 1961, alongside Yvonne Lime Feddersen. He had an uncredited but memorable appearance as Wallace in the classic Young at Heart episode of The Honeymooners, where Ralph Cramden tries to learn to roller skate. He also made guest appearances on respected shows like Playhouse 90 and the Jack Benny program. But despite this promising start, Ronnie was never comfortable with celebrity. The fame that came with being a recognizable TV star and the son of Amati legends was a poor fit for his personality. This profound discomfort was the main reason he quit acting in the early 1960s, a decision he made at a relatively young age. His last film role was in Anatomy of a Psycho in 1961. Interestingly, his departure from acting wasn't a complete break from the industry. He briefly returned to work behind the scenes as a producer for his father's 1964 to 1965 sitcom, Wendy and Me. This suggests his issue was specifically with the public exposure of being a celebrity, not the business itself. After leaving the spotlight, Ronnie successfully reinvented himself. He used the money he'd earned from acting to get into real estate investment. He also pursued his passion for horses, owning a ranch in the Santa Moena Valley in California, where he raised Arabian horses. He was also an avid surfer and enjoyed sailing. He had found his own low-key life. Ronnie was married twice, first to Peggy Jo Lyon, with whom he had 3 sons, Brent, Brad, and Brian Burns. His second marriage was to Janice E. Powell, who was his wife until his death. In keeping with his desire for privacy, he kept his own family life largely out of the public eye. Ronald John Burns passed away on November 14, 2007, at his home in Pacific Palisades, California, at the age of 72 from cancer. While his obituaries understandably focused on his role in his parents' beloved show, he is also remembered by fans for the genuine warmth and laughter he contributed to a golden era of television. What are your favorite memories of George Burns and Gracie Allen? Let us know in the comments below. And for more fascinating stories about the families of Hollywood legends,